The Runicks themselves will produce the non-tuners that you may need. The Crystrons will then provide the tuners. And then there are some very interesting synchro choices in that extra deck for our Crystron Runick player. So it looks like our Crystron Runick player in the form of Isaac has been able to win the dice roll and is going to be going first, starting off with Flashing Fires to special summon out the Hugin straight away, which, getting to the most important card for the Runick strategy, is going to gain access to the Fountain. Oh, but not with Infinite Impermanence roaming around. This is the one big benefit that I do see with these two engines in synergy together, is the fact that you can put your Crystron cards into the graveyard, which is where they technically want to be, and being able to utilize that with the form of Sulfurneer. And of course, we do have the Crystron in the graveyard as well, that both are going to be able to start searching out and then facilitating the rest of the Crystron engine.
Yes, and here comes the addition from Rage of the Abyss, one of the best cards by far, this Tristaros. It does so much for the deck. And let's see if Cameron has anything else to stop Isaac.
Yeah, so we're now with the Tristanos on the board. We've been able to use the Smyger from the graveyard in order to grab the spell card, which in turn will then search out the other Sulfurneer in the deck. And with Tristanos on the board, what it kind of does is it puts his opponent on a bit of a careful edge, because if any card or effect is activated by Cameron, he will then have the ability to utilize the Tristanos to synchro summon away. It looks like we're going to be taking away that option from the board, from the field straight away.
Yeah, the thing is, he's only on one Sulfurneer, so he hard draw it, and so yeah, he doesn't really have an option to search the second one for this duel.
This is also quite interesting, being able to utilize the level 4 Crystron Synchro. This is going to be able to set up a few more plays, and we still haven't even conducted a normal summon. This is what I'm still always amazed by, is the amount of decks that can hold back that pivotal kind of point, being able to get into the Sulfur Door, and this is the other one that's going to be able to get a Tristanos to the field as well.
Yeah, and also going to bring back from the graveyard that Sulfurneer. And further send the plays. I really like the deck list. It's really clean from Isaac. A lot of free offs. These pretty much 12 Crystrons, and the rest is mostly spells. So, solid.
This is the one good thing that they can do, and this is technically, we started off with a Runick card, but we haven't seen much more influence from them. So the Crystrons themselves can definitely stand on their own, and just being able to have that facility to play other additional engines into the strategy just allows you to go that little bit further, or in the case of this one, be able to kind of pull out an Infinite Impermanence from their opponent to be able to continue to build the board. We've sent a First Survivor to the graveyard, so this is going to be able to give the ability to banish it from the graveyard to add a Crystron monster from the deck to the hand. And again, just being able to keep hold of that hand advantage can be very, very important as we enter more of the grind game, if we need to get there. But then going into the brand new Crystron Skeletus as well, this is going to be able to add more pressure to the board or to the field for the Crystron player. So all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense, so that's going to give it a bit of an attack swing depending on what they might be facing up against. And then on top of that, if it wasn't enough, if it is synchro summoned, you get to add a Crystron card from the graveyard or the banishment back to the hand. So what you might have sent previously with the Sulfur Door will then allow you to add them back to the hand, and that's when you're going to be access to maybe the trap card, the First Vivant, if you wanted it, or of course you can also go for stuff like the Tristanos, which looks like exactly what's going to be happening here.
And now we can also use the inclusion, getting rid of it from the field. And going for an XYZ Sims instead.
Yeah, so this will be the Nova into Infinity play, which is, it's actually amazing quite to see Infinity coming back into the circuit. It's always one of them fan favorite cards, especially with the whole Cyber Dragon backing of it. And this is going to be able to set up that pivotal negate that might be needed in order to present more to this field.
Oh, and there comes a Runick card. There is one. Tip, which is going to reveal what he's up against, and he's also going to get rid of one-off in the deck from Cameron.
Yeah, so that's always quite interesting as well, especially not only do you get the knowledge of what your opponent might be playing in this early stages, but you're also then going to be able to take away a one-off card that sometimes a lot of people will forget about as they're trying to build their combos. They forget that a significant piece might be missing in order to kind of change up the strategy or change up the play in order to kind of facilitate itself around different interactions.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that in this case, Cameron is actually piloting the pure Ryzeal version. So it will definitely be impactful, but yeah, the X is a great way to start things off here, going second.
Yeah, I think the EX is a very, very good card. And being able to send a card such as Agitator does allow you to navigate around the board in this sense of the form of the Infinity. But we're going to be able to chain the Runick spell to this one, the Freezing Curses.
Banishing some additional cards off the top. But no, that's enough. Wow. Camera. Good fist bump. Let's take a look at this Ryzeal cards. Not really using the new tools from Maze of the Master, unfortunately. But, I mean, opening with Ice is the best. And the good thing knowing is that when you're facing off against such a heavy deck on engine, you're not really going to be facing off many interruptions. And that is the case. There are 0 entraps in the main deck for Isaac.
Yeah, I feel the one benefit you're going to be able to do is when you're taking away that space that would normally be hand traps, is it does allow you to focus a little bit more on the Runick field breakers. And I feel that can be very, very important against Detonator because you know how strong it can be. You ideally want to be able to start without presenting the field with anything too integral. You want to be able to start with a negation or a destruction on that particular Detonator rather than trying to work your way into a Hugin, because you know as soon as you start making those plays, the Detonator is going to respond and start to pick them off one by one. So if you're able to start with a negation, it then kind of puts Cameron in a position where he needs to decide if the Detonator is worth keeping on the board or trying to come back around. Because if it gets negated or destroyed and it doesn't have something like an Eclipse Twins in the graveyard, that Detonator of what could be anywhere from a 2 to 3 destruction and disruption in general could then allow Isaac to go a little bit more freely, building up his Runick plays and Crystron plays. Also remembering in the general strategy of Runicks, they do kind of limit your access to your battle phase. So you need to always be thinking 1 or 2 turns ahead so that when you do make a play to remove one of the most important phases in the game, something like your battle phase, you're still able to navigate and then control your opponent's board without allowing them to come back into the game when you're technically going to be a semi-turn behind them.
Mm-hmm. No, very well said. And yeah, here we see something that we have seen plenty of time at Birmingham, but actually here comes a bit of a surprise because we had in front of us a different deck list, but Cameron is actually on Mitsurugi Ryzeal. So one of the most explosive variants of the deck if left unchecked, and this is the case. So no draw and lock, no sort of interruption coming from Isaac. And yeah, this is what you want to see, the prayers just opening the entire engine.
Yeah, I do really like the introduction of the other TCG exclusive being the Mitsurugis right now. This is on its first wave of support as well, and it's still great to see when a brand new art type like this can be integrated as an engine, just so you can kind of start to see all of the particular components of that engine being able to be utilized. Now, you can take it away from Ryzeal themselves, but it can stand on its own. But it's also going to be very interesting to see how this is integrated in order to provide a better end field for Cameron to then still contact and combat against the Ryzeal, the Crystrons and the Runicks, because both of those engines side by side, as we've already mentioned, Runick give you that capability to help you pick a field apart while also still providing you with the ability of adding monsters to your field. And then you're having the Crystrons that will then be able to provide you with a bit more field presence and a bit more field aggression in order to kind of push through what could possibly be Detonators plus the Mitsurugi ritual monsters, duo drives, cross, and that's even before you start taking into account any cards that Cameron might have in his hand.
Yeah, and take a look at this. Not only has set up all of the Ryzeals, but both Futsu no Mitama and Ame no Murakumo.
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, just being able to have a Detonator on the board is one thing, but then having to deal with what could possibly be anything a little bit further so that Cross is also live, and then you're adding the Mitsurugis to that board, just adds you a little bit more disruption. So keeping in mind that the Ame no Mukurumo will give the ability that when it comes back to the field, if special summoned by any means, you get to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So that's going to give a very nice clear out, which does need to be considered that some of the Crystron monsters actually want to be in the graveyard. So you do have to kind of time that correctly to make sure that all of those monsters that end up in the graveyard have already used their effects, or you're going to be putting something there that doesn't really net Isaac any more advantage than it would do on the field already.
Yeah, but then wanting to go to the graveyard changes quite a bit when they're facing a Beast Dweller. Will it resolve? Is there gonna be a freezing curse on the other side? Doesn't seem like that's the case.
No, so this is going to be quite interesting to see how we're going to navigate. So we're
Yeah.
going to start off with the tip. Be wondering what you would go for here, because you know as soon as you go for a fountain, there's no way that Detonator allows that to resolve or remain on the field unless you have the ability to, of course, chain any of your Runick cards to work your way into a Hugin. And then that would, of course, allow you to protect it from being destroyed. But then you're obviously going to keep having Detonator coming back again and again and again every single time you want to gain any form of advantage off of the back of fountain.
Okay, we are gonna start things off and instead switch over to our Christons with the Tisfern.
Yeah, so the first Riven is going to give you the capabilities when it is in the graveyard to banish, and then special summon a Crystron monster from the hand. So this is something you don't really want it to get to the graveyard, depending on what else Isaac has. But even then, the card, or very simply, cut all of that out, go straight for a Typhon. That's definitely going to have an answer to this field.
Yeah, it's good enough. Oh, but yeah, we move on and activate Fountain, and yeah, we can just play it almost as a Runick control deck. Moving on to Destruction, banishing the top 4 cards of the deck and getting rid of this cross. Not gonna see them right away, but yeah.
Yeah, this is a very interesting approach. Being able to kind of protect your Runick spells directly from Detonator just by using Typhon is very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, very smart from Isaac. Not gonna be able to get quite free, but I mean, it's gonna draw 2 cards by putting back the tip and the distraction. And now, finally, we get to use the Typhon as the cross is also gone. He's having a think, so might not be just Detonator. Let's see.
Yeah, I feel you could probably weather the storm of a Dweller the second time.
But we are going to move on and chain our Mitsurugi quick spell.
Quite possibly Cameron thinking a little bit more about the next turn here. We know that Isaac isn't going to be able to conduct a battle phase. He's already put Typhon in defense as well, so even if there wasn't a Runick spell activated previously to this, so Detonator is going to be leaving the field.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, it does. The Eclipse Twin, I don't think it has a target. But
yeah, so it looks like we're going to be able to recycle a card, and because the Ritual Monster was tributed, you get to add a Mitsurugi card from the deck to the hand except itself, and then you get to bring it back to the field if he chooses to. But then, of course, being under Typhon, it won't be able to summon itself back to the field. Very, very simplified game state right here. I mean, it's still very interesting that Typhon will continue to protect the Fountain during Cameron's turn as well. So any more draw plays? Ooh, talents. Ooh, responded with an Ash. Cameron definitely has something in his hand he does not want Isaac to see or even remove.
yeah. Seems like that was about it. So Cameron is gonna see another turn still with the Abyss Dweller and gonna be quite quick to move.
Yeah, I feel this is quite interesting. I'm not sure exactly how you're going to be removing that Typhon unless you want to start working your way into something along the lines of the Exton Knight. Of course, he does also play Castel the Sky Blaster, which can be another way to deal with it. And having to face down a Droll is definitely one of those cards that can hurt or kind of stump the Mitsurugi part of the Ryzeal strategy.
Yeah, although once you have already committed, you know, it's definitely less threatening. Also, because on the one hand, it guarantees the any runic spell would not be able to combo with Fountain.
Correct.
I guess, you know, you have just SP as an easy way, maybe. But let's see.
Yeah, that is also quite interesting. Whether you want to sacrifice the Abyss Dweller, do you value the Abyss Dweller being able to shut out Isaac's graveyard for another turn? And in that case, do you then work towards something like a Castell, but then it gives Isaac the opportunity to activate or to summon Typhon again the next turn. So it's basically just an endless loop of where this might want to go. Yeah. But at least with Typhon off the field, you might be able to push for a little bit of damage and then be able to try and work your way into the ability to stop, which is exactly what we're going to be seeing here with the Castell. Ooh, chooses to go for the Fountain. That is a very interesting choice.
Yeah, gets rid of Fountain.
The Abyss Dweller will still kind of calm the graveyard for Isaac's turn. There's no battle phase. There should be a battle phase unless a runic spell is activated during Isaac's next turn.
Yeah. Yet again, we see the prayers come for the third time.
Yeah, the continued recursion of the Mitsurugi cards is what makes it so, so good. Praise is an incredibly good card, and only being able to take up a very small amount of your deck does give you another different angle to work with.
I guess this works.
Yeah, just being able to get a bit more damage than the Typhon.
That's annoying, though, yeah. The Slumber can protect it while banishing quite some cards off the top of Cameron's deck.
Yeah. This is very interesting in comparison to, do you, maybe being under draw, do you leave the Fountain in place and deal with that Typhon? But then, like I said, the issue of worrying about a Typhon coming back again the next turn is just going to make it even more threatening. It's an incredibly good card, especially when you're comboing it off with Slumber here to make it a very, very powerful mecha to try and remove from the field.
Yeah. And, yep, this is pretty much gonna be at least the end of the battle, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see any other way of getting past that Typhon. So swinging it back round to Isaac might be the next best option, depending on what else has been banished off of the runic cards. I can only imagine that Dweller would activate during the draw phase in order to kind of shut down the graveyard. But then Typhon, apart from the Mitsurugi, will be able to remove one of those from the field and do a bit of damage. Oh no, so apologies,
No,
there won't be a battle phase because they've just used Slumber. So there is no battle phase to worry about here again.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stalemate kind of situation, but definitely Cameron has the upper end. And yeah, we'd recognize this spot, just set one, as the pressure is on Isaac to stay in this duel. No Dweller right away. Okay, never mind. Maybe Isaac reminded him by checking his own graveyard, and yeah, that's going to resolve.
I think this is what's going to give Crystron hybrids a little bit more of an edge. Is usually an Abyss Dweller would be pretty much enough needed to shut down the Crystron Pride, but then when you can go for a card like Slumber itself and then start opening up the door to the runic side, you can now start to present a little bit more on the field, maybe working into a Hugin, which I believe is what's going to happen here. As long as that discard allows it to work its way into the Fountain. Ooh, very, very interesting discard off of that one. So trying to open up the routes to the Crystron cards, but even then with Graveyard kind of shut off, it must have been more of a must discard rather than I want to discard.
Indeed. And we see the Veiler not wanting to have anything to do with this Fountain. Seems like Cameron has a pretty clear plan in his mind, just get rid of Fountain as quickly as possible, and it does work. The score is tied. We'll be going to game 3 soon.
as much as you possibly can, and I would be amazed. We're going to be seeing Isaac go first on this one, trying to present off the strategy, trying to, with the ideal goal, to set itself up with Fountain alongside a Cyber Dragon Infinity and, of course, a Tristanos Root is the ideal kind of out goal. And then you're trying to see what else Cameron might be able to open up with, as you mentioned previously, with so many non-engine, how he can stop this field being presented.
Let's take a look whether this first Yugen will be answered. We are gonna move and discard that Tasvern.
Yeah, being able to get that Crystron to the graveyard, it doesn't look like that Hugin is going to resolve.
No.
I don't think we're going to see this Hugin resolve at all this entire time. There you go.
Cameron's just choosing, goes for impermanence, playing around talent. And yeah, here this is going to be quite the premium discard though, allowing Isaac to push forward and getting that Tristaros.
Yeah, so that's not a bad card to be starting with. Being able to obviously synchro these two off. We saw it in game number 1, how that can be very, very helpful.
Ooh, tip as well.
Yeah, backing it up with the tip, that's going to gain access to pretty much any runic spell they would like, but you're probably going to be going to Fountain more times than not.
And again,
hit node again.
Just like in game 1, wow. The odds, yeah.
Carrying on with the Fountain here. It would be very interesting to see if there's any more runic spells to kind of back up the Fountain. That will then give the ability, being with having Tip and Destruction already in there, recycling for a draw free, which would be pretty amazing in order to kind of get a bit more advantage back to the hand of Isaac.
Premium. And yeah, this is really, really good opener. Do we have an Ash Blossom to stop this Fountain? Big question asked here.
Very good access in the Sulfur is still presenting a fairly decent field to be dealing this, and the Tristanos, so that even if there is a response off of the back of this, there will be a way for Tristanos to help the synchro plays in order to kind of dodge maybe some targeted effects on those particular elements. It looks like we're going to be sending the Schmeiger and the Sulfur near.
Yeah, this is amazing. We get 3 draws off the Fountain.
Yeah, and the draws are going to resolve, which can be absolutely massive, especially when you still have more. Yeah, this isn't even the beginning of what this board can continue, this field can continue to produce.
I mean, we have seen it plenty of times across the years when you have these runic synchro decks. The crazy aspect is that you can use the runics obviously as non-tuner materials, but then once Fountain resolve, those runics turns into actually answers and interruptions during your opponent's turn. So if the deck gets to do what it wants, there are very few decks in Yu-Gi-Oh that are able to sustain such advantage turn after turn. So let's see.
Yep, so utilizing the effect of the Sulfur and obviously being able to put Crystron Incursion into the graveyard as well. And there's your 2 level 5s. So if you ever wanted to go into a Nova Infinity or needed signs that could be possibly on the cards, say no more than 2 level 5 machine monsters.
And you might be onto something, and yeah, I think we are going to see that Nova. Indeed.
This is going to be really important as well. If you're able to leave the Tristanos on the field, or if you choose to synchro off the Tristanos right now, that will then provide you with another one, which will probably go into the Skeleton. And you're trying to work your way into the trap card. That could be a very, very good interaction if you want to. But there's also a lot of advantages that we can continue to add back. And ideally what you want, after you've deck finned quite a lot with all your Crystron cards, you then have your Runic cards to kind of back this field up.
And now we get access to Inclusion, which will provide even further support. And I think we are about to end this turn while also guaranteeing 1,000 life points, as the champion top from the immune in the end phase.
Yeah, this is giving a little bit of deja vu from duel number 1, where we ended up seeing the infinite impermanence being the only hand trap of those 18, unfortunately, that Cameron does run. And it just isn't enough to kind of stop this field being presented. The banish of Node. And it looks like there is an effect veiler held in Cameron's hand.
Yeah, he didn't really find a spot to use it again. And unfortunately, it's not going to help now. The most he can do is turn into a Typhon, but, I mean, he's in need of extreme help. And when we look at what he has brought in from his side deck, it's also mostly just end traps. So we won't be seeing any field breaking spell come down, not even using RP's Feather Duster at all. So
this is continuing exactly like duel 1, so we're going to go in for the EX, and hopefully this is going to be sending the Agitator, which in turn will respond by trying to nullify the negation of the Cyber Dragon Infinity. Or maybe even the Fountain? No, definitely go for the Infinity, just in case you wanted to kind of change up the round 1 route of plays.
I mean, the graveyard at the moment is empty of Runick spells, so might as well. But as you have mentioned, there is an additional effect that we are going to see now for the first time, which is this Synchro making ability. And that's just an additional layer of interruption from Isaac.
Yeah, so being able to go into FA Dawn Dragster will provide with another spell negation as well, which can be pivotal depending on which kind of spell Cameron wants to activate. It's definitely a way to answer the Mitsurugi Ritual spell if that is attempted to be used. The Agitator, and there's a Draw and Lock Bud as well.
Wow.
As if he needed any more.
Quite rough, yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a very intimidating field to be looking down. Cameron still has a lot of cards to play with, though. Maybe that is enough to help at least make a small dent to take this into the next game. Unfortunately, unlike game 1, he can't really wrap it up there and move into game 2. He kind of needs to try with all he can to fight through this field. So here comes the Ryzeal Sword. Do you work into a duo? I suppose a duo just gets answered straight away with any type of interaction. Yeah, if you go into a detonator, is that going to be strong enough?
Because you're also under draw, so it's not like it does
yes, very true,
yeah.
Oof. Hard open of the Crystron trap card.
The one-off in deck, the Christon cluster. Gonna get rid of that sword. This is absolutely rough. Do we play the Typhon?
Ooh, there's the normal summon of Sword. I suppose trying to work your way into an X-Ton Knight might be the best thing here, but it doesn't look. Isaac is not letting Cameron have 2 level 4s on that field. He is making sure that no XYZ summon can be conducted.
Absolutely right. And yeah, you can see Cameron just passing back. He knows what's up. And, I mean, the only good thing going for him is that his opponent does not have access to a battle phase for this turn. But any Runick spell would just, add so much, draw additional cards. And, yeah.
Yep. And what is also very, very important to see is that Ryzeal Sword is in attack position, which does mean that Cyber Dragon Infinity, should he choose to, can absorb it as a material. And then that means that there won't be a Ryzeal Sword floating around. It gives Infinity another material as well as having a bit more of an attack stat increase. And then you're still going to be able to hopefully hold back your Runick spell so you don't need to lose your battle phase of the next turn. Sitting on a F8 Dawn Dragstar plus a Cyber Dragon Infinity and maybe whatever other monster you might be able to present your field with.
Yep, going to recycle some resources. He read the Infinity. Yeah, making sure that he can, and he's going to exactly do that. Taking away the sword.
There we go.
I mean, Veiler is used.
Not sure how much that stumps, but that does allow Sword to, at least stay in Cameron's possession, whether it be on his field or in the graveyard. Whether he has a plan in mind to utilize it from the graveyard might be quite important. but I do feel that this is starting to absorb away a bit of resource from Cameron here.
You can possibly negate it, to be fair, but yeah, no. Seems like instead we are gonna use our Christon trap card. Can we? No, we cannot push any damage. I mean, maybe he doesn't have a runic spell, which could at least limit the amount of resources that he's able to get.
Yeah, so his hand advantage is currently still quite healthy. There are a couple of synchro monsters he could make if he chooses to try and get a bit more draw power going.
Oh, but it seems like it's, all done. Skipping the battle phase, gaining 1 more 1,000 with Munin, all the way up to 10,000 life points.
Yeah. So we've got 3 cards to work with Cameron with 2 negates on the field, plus the destruction off of the cluster, and of course the reaction of Tristanos to synchro summon as well. So there's quite a lot to be working for.
But I think he has just passed. Yeah, he's gonna allow his opponent to end the duel in style. Now really picking up his cards and allowing the Runick deck to finally have a battle phase if he wishes. And you love to see this partnership as well. They throughout the entire match they are having quite the laugh between themselves.
Yeah, they both know exactly what's going on. They've both tried their hardest on this one, a 1-1, and then just being able to see the field that Isaac's been able to present, you kind of have to tip your hat and say, yes, okay, you've presented an incredibly powerful board, and you've been able to kind of quench me trying to build up my own. And this field right now is currently sitting on an FA Dawn Dragstar, Skeleton, and of course the Cyber Dragon Infinity. So just being able to get that final bit of attack in just by doing a normal tribute summon to finish the duel off.
And that is it.